It was 1972. I was 17 years old, and my junior year of high school was coming to an end. Our school guidance department was looking for volunteers who would teach middle schoolers next year about the dangers of alcohol and drugs. And President Richard Nixon had just declared a war on drugs. I thought I wanted to be a teacher, so this opportunity was a good way to test the waters, see if I liked it. The leaders of this project were Byron and Lucia. They were our school psychologists who were like straight up cool hippies, but with PhDs. A few weeks later, they gathered us together and they taught a day-long class on the dangers of alcohol and drugs, kind of like a health class. And then they proposed an overnight field trip to bond better as a team. And the overnight field trip would be to a farm in rural Maryland in late August. So our parents signed our permission slips and preparations were made for this field trip. So the day arrived and we left by city school bus, and we came to a very lush, bucolic farm in rural Maryland. And when we arrived, we could see a big old rambly farmhouse. And in front of the farmhouse was a sign that said, "Beautiful Day Trading Company." There were fields all around, and as we made our way into the farmhouse, we were greeted at the door by beaded curtains that parted. And the sweet aroma of patchouli incense permeated the air. There were casual but mismatched furnishings. There were peacock feathers in vases. And on the walls were posters of rock bands, the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, and of course, the Grateful Dead. There were some residents milling around, but it was a cool and mellow scene. In short, it was a hippie commune. You dig? So Byron and Lucia gathered our group together in a circle in the living room, and we had our first encounter group. And Byron asked us, well, how are your kids going to react when these seventh graders tell you you're just full of crap? And we had to talk about our feelings because, you know, it was the 70s, and that is what we did. We talked about our feelings. And then Lucia proposed an exercise to build trust. So we were all to line up, and then one by one, we had to fall backwards and trust that your group members would pick you up before you hit the ground. And of course, we had to talk about that, and so round and round we go, and then finally, that groovy scene was over. And we were told we were now free to enjoy the farm with just these two loosey-goosey chaperones. Wow, bring it on, man. So let me put this scene in a little bit of context in my life. I grew up in a traditional, structured, Catholic, rigid home. I mean, did I say rigid? And it was a good home, but it was not peace, love, and happiness. This whole free love, hippie, anti-war movement was not okay by my family, but I was smitten with it. And I had researched communes, I had written papers on them, and I knew that just 2 hours from my house there was a commune that, if I could get there and with the right guy, I could live in a place where everyone got along, everyone shared, and everyone was on one long, cool trip. It was the groovy alternative lifestyle that I wanted to try on. So now, here I am at a hippie commune. Can you believe it? I couldn't have wished it any better. So with the group over, I began to make my way further into this house, and ahead I could see a kitchen. And in the kitchen I could see a guy sitting at a table, drinking a cup of tea, and carefully pouring honey into glass bottles. And I thought, a pure hippie farm activity. This is perfect. So I went up to him and I said, "Hi, my name's Barbara. That looks like fun." And he said, "Cool, my name's Barry. You must be one of the school kids visiting us. Welcome." And that is how I met Barry. I sat down and I just started to help him with the honey. I learned that Barry had recently moved to the farm Before that, he'd been in college, he dropped out of college, and he had joined a yoga ashram. And when that scene got old, he migrated to this trip. And we just shared stories back and forth. And after a while, he showed me his room, we listened to some records, and then we went for a walk around the fields of the farm. And when it got dark and the stars were out, we laid in the grass and maybe actually consumed one of the substances I came to the farm to learn about. Truthfully, I can't fully remember, maybe because I was high. But what I do remember is Barry. He was soft, he was kind, he was gentle. I mean, he's someone who had already lived deeply. He had tried new things, just dared to be, and I had never met anyone like that in my life. So we talked, and finally it was the wee hours of the morning. Made my way back to his room, I grabbed my sleeping bag, and we just curled up next to each other, and we slept. The deep sleep of teenagers. And it was all very innocent. The whole evening was like hippie fairy dust had been sprinkled all over us. The next morning is a bit of a blur, but I do remember we had one more encounter group before we had to pack it up. And Barry walked me to my bus, we exchanged information, and then we both waved a long, sad goodbye as my bus pulled away and we split for the big city. About 2 days later, a letter arrived at my house. And it was a letter Barry wrote the night I left. And so the letter arrives in an envelope with hand-painted drawings on it. And in the letter, Barry wrote, "Dear Barbara, did we really experience this mellow vibration together? It all seems like a really nice dream. I know we live different lifestyles, but I want to see you again. But mainly, Barbara, I want you to be happy. I want you to be free. I want you to be as strong as love and as soft as flowers. Until we talk again, love and peace, Barry." Amazing, right? I wrote back right away, and we talked on the phone, trying to figure out how we were going to meet up again. But between my uptight parents and high school and his different life, I just didn't know how it would go, but it didn't stop how I felt. I wanted to see him again, and I wanted to get back to that farm. So a few weeks after that, a second letter arrived. And this letter comes in a muslin fabric envelope, hand-sewn all around with beautiful drawings on it. And my hippie wannabe heart just went aflame. In this letter, Barry wrote out his heartfelt advice. "Barbara, your vibration is so sensitive to beauty and love, it just pours out of you. Be sensitive. Stay open, even when people will tell you not to be. Show your truth. Be wary of false trips. Those are not your trips. Reflect love, and it's all going to be all right." His advice was so dear to me, and especially dear to my 17-year-old me. After that letter, I lost contact with Barry. And I never forgot Barry, the connection, the magic of being 17, being on a hippie commune if only for one day. I kept these letters through all these years, through so many moves. I reread them at different points in my life, and they became a guidepost for me about showing my truth and being who I am. So maybe Barry was a path to that hippie dream that in the end I didn't really want. But maybe this trip was just my wild midsummer night's dream.